Woo! Good morning, sir. Thank you for joining us. We were just talking about you. How was it?
Good, good. Well, that's all right. I'll take it. No, take it? Yeah. All right. What can I possibly answer for you? Who wants to have the first question?
Oh, there's a lot.
Oh, they're right there. Okay, go ahead. Shoot it.
Okay. You, John De Lancie, have the powers of a Q for the next 10 seconds. What do you do?
Why is it that Washington, D.C. pops into my mind?
I sort of expected that.
All right, next question.
Okay. I know this is a Star Trek panel, but I have to know. Have you recorded any lines for the My Little Pony movie?
No. But maybe about 2 months ago, I did 2 more episodes for the TV show.
All right. Thank you very much.
All right, next.
Hello.
Hello.
My question is, what is your most memorable moment from recording Discord?
How many of you understand? Probably most of you don't know what it's like to do these recordings. So I'm going to take a little time here to explain to you. I get a call from my agent, and they say they have a script or 2 scripts that they want to record on such and such day. Would that be good for you? So I look at my calendar and I said yes or no. Can it be this day, that day? So that's there. Then I always say I have to have the script a day or so beforehand. I'm very dyslexic. So I have to work on it. I have to look at it and circle it and read it a couple of times and do all of that. Then I go to the recording studio. The recording studio is about the size of, let's say, these 4 right here, okay? And on the other side of that is a glass wall, and there's the recording engineer. There's a music stand and a series of mics. I'm alone. I then hear over the loudspeaker, "Hi, John, it's so-and-so and so-and-so, and blah, 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 blah," and we're all here. Where they are is Vancouver.
Vancouver?
Vancouver. And I'm in Los Angeles. And then they say, "Are we ready?" And I said, "Yeah, let's go." And I have worked on the material for about 2.5 hours, let's say, to get, to make it large enough so that I can see it easily, to circle the words, to know where I'm going to go, and to also know what the scene is about. Because when I go in to record, there's nobody else who's playing the scene with me. So I need to know what that scene is about and where I want to go. And then they say, "Okay, let's start off," and we start. And it takes about an hour or so to record an episode. So when you ask me, what was the most memorable? It's pretty dry, It's pretty dry. Okay, next.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yes.
Going back roughly 20 years, could you elaborate for the world and the audience here the pull my finger incident?
The pull my finger incident?
Yes. Pull my finger, something that
Oh, I thought you were going to be asking me about the hand that rocks the cradle with that glove there. Oh, well, that's a longish story. Later, it's only 11, or it's 8 o'clock in the morning for me. A little later. I know what you're talking about now. A little later. Okay, perhaps.
Hello. My question is, and you appeared in the 3 Star Treks, and what was your favorite cast to work with, and how did you like fleshing out the Q character as you basically made him who he was, and even the legacy he has in the books?
So the question is, which was the favorite cast?
Yeah.
Probably Next Generation. The deal with Next Generation is that the relationship between me and Picard was very straightforward. It's it's the regular 2A types, who's on top, everything's a conflict type of acting issues, okay? The difference between that and Voyager with Kate Mulgrew is that they were so concerned that Kate herself did not play in any way that she was somewhat infatuated with Q, that they took a huge color. If acting or at least going into a scene is like painting, and you have a lot of colors on your palette that you can paint with, they took a real primary color off of the palette. So, and I kept on saying, why are you doing that? We could have so much fun doing that. Fun meaning fun for the audience. So that conversations would be getting slowly closer and closer and closer, and the audience is going, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, that type of thing. But all of that was pulled out. So, what determines a good project, frankly, is the writing. It has less to do with whether you like the people or don't like them, or the scenes are shot in a nice place or not. The most important thing is the writing. And so the material in Next Generation had all of the potential colors were on the palette. And the thing with Voyager is that it just wasn't. And Kate and I are very good friends. And so you would think, oh, well, that would be the one that you would enjoy the most. But it wasn't quite as satisfying. Go ahead, next.
Hi. This kind of follows on his question a little bit as far as the cast members and everything. First of all, Q is probably one of the best antagonists that I've come across in any TV show. You either love to hate him or you hate to love him. One of the two. So, but following on that, with the new TV show coming up, Discovery, is there any hope or chance, or would you like to see Q maybe, or the Q Continuum in general make an appearance in Discovery?
You mean geriatric Q could come out?
You're not that old.
It would be a cold day in hell if for them to ask me to do anything. I just don't see that it would actually make much sense. If they wanted to include the continuum again, that would be fine. If they did come, the first thing, if my agent called me and said, by the way, they'd like you to work on the new Star Trek, I'd go, what? Really? How are they? That would be the thing that I would be the most interested in, just figuring out, how did they figure out to bring me in? But since I work on the principle of never say no, always say yes, the answer is sure, but I'm very, I don't have much hope for that.
Okay, yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
Hello. Just to go on your friendship with Kate, did that influence your son's ability to get that role in the episode, or did he have to audition?
Oh, no. Keegan auditioned. I got a call from my agent, which was they are auditioning for your son. And which was a general call to all around, all the agents in America. And do you think that Keegan, what my agent was asking me is, do you want us to respond by saying, John has a son of the right age, should we pitch that? And I said, well, I don't know, let me ask him. So I asked him, and I explained to him, you have to audition and what have you, and he said yes. So he went through, other than the fact that he got to work on the scenes at home, and I think mostly it was my wife who I did it a couple of times with him, and I went fine. But it was my wife who probably worked with him a little bit more. He went and auditioned. And then he auditioned again, which meant he had a call back. And then he auditioned a third time. So it was, nobody gave him anything. He wasn't given the role. I'm sure there's a little bit of cachet to the fact that he was my son and we look somewhat similar and stuff like that. But I'm sure they were happy that it worked out. But if it hadn't worked out, they would not have hired him. Yeah, because in the end, you have to protect the show. Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Yeah. That son, by the way, is now in the State Department. Yeah. Yeah.
What's your personal favorite Q episode?
What's my personal favorite Q episode? Probably All Good Things, the last episode. And the reason is that by that time I had done 6 episodes of Q. Or actually, I had done 5 episodes of Q. So I had 5 times an opportunity to try, well, what about this way, and, unlike the rest of the cast, I had not done whatever they did, 150 episodes. I only had 5. So for me, I looked at that last script, and every script that I ever did with Trek was, as far as I was concerned, the last script. I looked at that last script, and there were, let's say X amount of scenes. 6 scenes. And I went, what can I do to make each one of these scenes different? A different aspect. So if you think of a diamond, let's say, and you have a cut, a facet that has been cut, I could either polish that one up because, oh, that's a scene that's already been cut before. I'm sort of doing the same thing again. But I could kind of polish that one up. And, ooh, and here's a possibility of cutting a new facet. So, so I'm going to do that. See, one of the things about acting, especially for film and television, is that there's no real rehearsal. Unlike a play where you read the material and then you talk about it, and usually the first 3 or 4 days at least are spent talking about the play itself and the scenes and what have you, and then you start the rehearsal process. You can try this, you can try that, until you've kind of organized everything for a month later, and then you have a preview and changes are made. None of that takes place in film and television. You have to do all of your work off stage, and you come as if you kind of have a virtual tool kit in your mind. So oftentimes I think of it as like doing surgery. I have worked out downstairs in my office. I have worked out, well, I could do it this way, I could do it this way, and I try different things. If you read Michael Caine's book, in hotel rooms, he will often talk to the chair. He'll set up the scene, and he'll work his way around the scene, imagining things. So I do the same thing. And you begin going, oh, I could go in this direction, I could go in this direction. Oh, this could happen there, that could happen there. And it's sort of like putting out all of the instruments for an operation. So they're all there. When you get to the set is when you start going, oh, I need this one, I need that one. I could that. And they're already up and ready to go. But you've thought about them. It isn't that you're imposing them. It's just that you are now playing right in the moment, and you are seeing what you need right now. So that's how I approach it, and that's how I approach that episode. And it's frankly how I approach everything.
Thank you.
Hi, what spurred your involvement in the arts, or in the musical arts?
My father was the solo oboe player for the Philadelphia Orchestra, and then he ran the Curtis Institute of Music. So as a little boy, I grew up in the classical music world, at a very high level of the classical music world. I can actually say to you that Leonard Bernstein was downstairs having dinner one night, and and people like that. And I got asked to do a Peer Gynt, to narrate Peer Gynt for the LA Phil, and I did it. And I had always wanted to do narrations. And then I got asked to do it for the New York Philharmonic. But by that time, I also write, and I know how these things work and what have you. And I was always wanting to make these things bigger. So for a period of time, I did all of the major narrations, the Peer Gynt and Bourgeois Gentilhomme and I don't know, Midsummer Night's Dream and blah, 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 blah. I then got an opportunity when I was in New York and I was finishing Midsummer Night's Dream. A conductor came up to me after the show and said, "We'd like you to come to. I'd like you to come to my orchestra, which was in Pasadena, which was really easy, at the Pasadena Symphony, and I'd like you to do something. What would you like to do?" And I said, "Midsummer Night's Dream." And he said, "Oh, you mean what I just saw?" I said, "No, no, no. No, the biggest problem is that Midsummer Night's Dream was written by Mendelssohn as incidental music for Shakespeare's Midsummer Night's Dream. What has happened over the years is that the music world takes that and separates it out and plays only the music, and then sometimes will insert somebody like myself, a narrator, to come in and say just a few words, a few of Shakespeare's words throughout the program. Which, and having done Midsummer Night's Dream as an actor twice, I looked at that material and I went, I don't even know what the story is. It's just, I said, I would like to bring them all back together again. So what I ended up doing is an hour-and-a-half Midsummer Night's Dream with orchestra and all of the players from Shakespeare's thing, and used a chorus that became the trees and the woods and the fairies and on and on and on and on. And once that was done and was very successful, I then tackled in Chicago Romeo and Juliet. Romeo and Juliet, you're only interested, quite frankly. I mean, let's be fair. In Romeo and Juliet, we only care about Romeo and Juliet. So I went and I stripped out the parents, and I stripped out, and you only need two things at that point. You need two plot points. You need the killing of Tybalt and the drinking of the poison. So what I did is that I stripped out the show. It was just Romeo and Juliet. I hired 2 actors, 2 singers, and 2 dancers. And then I looked at all of the works that have been done, all of the compositional works, all of the orchestral works that have been done around the idea of Romeo and Juliet, and there are 33 of them. And I picked, I think, 12 to then essentially score all of this. So we had, again, an hour-and-a-half show with, and it was really a marvelous show with chorus, and I was able to use Prokofiev and I don't know who else, Gounod and Berlioz and what have you, and so I did those for a while, and then I had a series at the LA Phil called First Nights, which were much more didactic because I had been doing at that time the children's concerts. And I pitched them the notion that they needed children's concerts for adults. The problem is that the music world, as classical music, is essentially collapsing. And they're trying desperately to find a way to be relevant now. And one of the problems is that music education in schools doesn't exist anymore. People don't understand how it works. I mean, to give you an idea, throughout all of the Western world, Europe, America, and what have you, 100 years ago, every town, the little town of whatever, Reno, Nevada, or something like that, would have a little group. And the little group could be made up of a pianist and a couple of people who played the violin and what have you, and they would play some reduction of Beethoven's Fifth. Well, they would play it, they would have an audience because there was nothing else to go to, who would come and listen, bum, 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 this type of stuff. But then the symphony orchestra would come to town. And the audience would be filled, but it was filled with people who, for the most part, knew that little piano reduction of dun, 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 dun. So they already had an idea. And then they would hear, 65 musicians on stage and would be, oh my God, isn't this amazing? All of that is gone. So I created a show called First Nights, which had a historical, gave historical context to Mahler's First and Prokofiev, so that people would understand what was the Soviet system and how during Stalin and then and Beethoven putting together the Fifth Symphony, when actually it was the first time that trumpets were or trombones were ever used, and on and on and on and on. So that's how I got more and more involved, and then ended up directing operas. So, sorry, very long-winded.
No, thank you so much.
Yeah.
So I was lucky enough to be on set when you were shooting the Star Trek Continues episode that's premiering tonight. And I wanted to, get your thoughts on, how you got involved in that and how you felt being a part of that.
Well, Vic asked me to be involved. He said that there was a show that I might be interested in, and it was a very interesting show. The issue being around prejudice, and also around the issue of immigration, immigrants, or people trying to get from one place which was terrible, like Syria, let's say, and coming to this country, except it's all done out in space, so you have a little bit of distance and you are able to see what the principles of it are. And I read it and I went, wow, this is what Star Trek originally was all about. At least some of what Star Trek was originally about when Roddenberry envisioned the series. Didactic, cautionary tales that allowed an audience to watch it, and therefore grandfather, father, grandson, in other words, 3 generations are able to watch it and then afterwards talk about it and say, what was that about? And, have some sort of... And so I said yes. the experience that I got from it was really I didn't expect this because it caught me completely by surprise, and that is the location, the studio was in Georgia, and you go into a warehouse and you don't know what you're going to see, and I walked on the sets and I went, oh, these sets are really terrific. And Vic said these are the exact replica of the sets that were originally on the original series. Exactly. The color, the dimensions, everything is exact. And I had worked with Leonard Nimoy, and I had a company that I had created, and then went to Leonard and asked him if he wanted to be part of it, and then he and I really built it up, called Alien Voices. And it was very moving to me to be on a set that, while it wasn't literally the set that Leonard was on, it was exactly, I could look at this set, let's say his room, or the I don't know, the transporter room, or some of the other rooms. I could look at it through his eyes. And one of the things in which I said right off the bat, I said, the colors are so, well, they're almost cartoonish for us now. And he reminded me that back in 1965, NBC, remember, it was the NBC Peacock. So they were really pushing the whole notion of color. So you would see things that were and then, having been a big sci-fi fan, I could look at, the rooms and what have you, and it reminded me of many of the movies that I saw as a kid in the late 50s, those great sci-fi movies in the 50s where, there would be the spaceship and what have you. And so I felt that it was really a good experience. Thanks. Yeah.
How you doing? I'm Omega with the Fanatically Correct podcast, and just a quick question. You played Q in many different series of Star Trek. Out of all the actors / characters, other than Patrick Stewart, that you worked with, who was your favorite?
Oh, I'm terrible with favorite questions.
Or character, like the interactions. Like, what was one of the more enjoyable times, even if it's not Star Trek overall, as an actor? What's one of the ways you most enjoyed interacting with another actor or character? No favorites.
No, not really.
So, well, I mean, I know you worked with Patrick Stewart the most. I mean, did you guys, after a while, was it like just really simple for you guys to work together? Or was there like a lot of rehearsal in those scenes, or did it just
No, you come in, what happens is this, is that you come in and you get out of makeup, and then you come in and you do a rehearsal, which is essentially you say your lines and the other person says their lines, and you sort of try to figure your way around the set. And then you might have a couple of questions with the director, but time is ticking. And then, they'll say, okay, should we do that one more time? So you do it another time, and you're desperately looking for places that feel good and make sense with what you had in your mind. You're trying to meld all of this homework that you did at home with the reality. And then they go, okay, well, let's bring the crew in. You bring the crew in, and they're watching for a very different reason. You run the scene a third time, and they are watching for, there's somebody who is at your feet who's putting down marks and marks and marks, and the gaffers are figuring out what the lighting is going to be, the DP is figuring out what the angles are going to be and what have you, and then they go, okay, thank you very much. And you go back, and you continue your makeup, or you get into costume. You're running the lines yourself. If you're with an actor who's willing to run lines, they'll say, hey, you want to run these a couple of times just by ourselves? Yeah. And if it's a simple scene to shoot, maybe it'll be 20 minutes or half an hour later, they say, okay, we're ready for you. And that's it. Now we're shooting. So that's the entire process. That's why, you know, oftentimes people ask me, oh, well, you know, all the, there must have been lots of pranks and, you know, stuff like that. I go, hey, man, I usually had, as Marina once said to me, you say more words in one episode than I have in an entire season. I have so much verbiage to go through that there's just no time. There's no time for, you know, kind of relaxing and what have you. You're just trying to get it done. Get it and done in the best possible way. And because there are many other forces at work too, which is, did we get that? Did he say all the words? Okay, let's move on. And you kind of go, wait a minute. I only had 2 takes. I'd like to have like 5 takes. Or, you know, they're bumping up, they've got a problem with some gag over here, and it's taking time away, and, you know, so that's the environment of shooting on any set.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Hi. I'm really glad to hear you talking so much about how emphatic you are about didactic art. And it makes me wonder, sort of, I know when you first started Discord, you had like no idea what he was or what the situation was, but I know you've gotten more into it later. And so I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about how you feel about the progression of Discord and like his learning and sort of how you feel about like the story and message.
Well, Discord is a character I play on My Little Pony, which is ostensibly was supposed to be a show intended for 8-year-old girls watched by 25-year-old guys.
To clarify, my husband was the brony who got me into it.
There we go. I think that it's a very interesting show. I don't watch it. You know, I watch, and rarely do I even see what I've done, you know, except, you know, en passant, as it were. But one of the things in which I like about it is that at least the episodes that I've had are lessons, and they are secular lessons. The one that pops to mind right now is the one in which I have a friend. I am somebody who should probably not have any friends, but I have a friend. And of course, as is wont in my character, I am pretty overbearing. But then she brings in another friend. She brings, oh, well, whatever it is. I don't know, Pinkie Pie or something, whatever. I have another friend. And I become very jealous. And I thought, isn't this interesting? What a great story. What a great lesson. Because I know people, and, a great lesson for, quote, the 8-year-old, the classic, who are the people who produce the show? Hasbro. The people that Hasbro thought that they were talking to was the 8-year-old girl. But I know 80-year-old men who need this lesson. So this is a lesson that spans a lifetime. And so I enjoy being in those type of shows. It gives you something more to talk about than, I really like the colors, or or gee, when they really sprayed the room with those guns, you kind of go, yeah. So that's what I like about it, and I've been told by a couple of people that the character, and I have seen this in the scripts in which I've done, the character is becoming kind of a little nice, which is nicer.
Nicer.
What's that?
Nicer.
Nicer.
It's definitely an er.
I have done I've had three major roles. I mean, I've had many, many roles, but three major roles where the audience took over and said, well, we really love what this is. And I have seen the writers write me, in some instances, funny, where I go, no, do not write me funny. Or don't write me nice, don't write me, let me be the one who makes that modulation, because oftentimes what happens is that it just becomes a wash. And the things that make the character of Discord, the character of Q, the character of Eugene, the character, what made those things is that the audience never was quite sure. So, all right, next.
Hi, I'm a huge fan. Q's probably my favorite TV character of all time. Growing up when I was watching the show with my dad, I really appreciated the character. And as I got older and rewatched the series with my wife, didn't lose any potency, but I had a shower thought the other day, and apparently a lot of people...
Are we now in the bathroom with you?
Yes. It wasn't in the shower, but I was going to dress it that way. The more I pay attention to the character, the more he seems to analog a bit with Loki. And I wondered if you had any inspiration from that character as the mischievous troublemaker with good intentions, if there was any inspiration.
You mean Loki in history, in mythology?
Yeah, seems to have a lot in common.
Oh, you know, I don't actually know that much about that character. Oh. Loki is a Viking. Norse?
Yeah, Norse.
Norse. Yeah, I don't know that much about that character.
Oh, I was hoping maybe we could settle an argument.
Oh, no, I did not approach it that way. I mean, you know, if anything, I approached it along the lines of mad, bad, and dangerous to know, which is, I had played the character of Lord Byron once, and that was the characterization that he had been given by his very upset wife. So there was that. I approached it from the position of what part of the pie was being eaten up. You know, clearly if Patrick had been Mr. Prankster, I would have probably taken, you know, character... Patrick was sort of very poopy the entire time, you know, like that. So it's really easy to take the other, you know, the poopy side of the equation was already, poopy side of the pie was already eaten up. So I was going to take the other side. So I mean, it was a little bit in that respect. Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. Next.
Good morning, sir. It's a pleasure. Being that you're a veteran of the arts, theater, orchestra, narrating, voice acting, and obviously it's film and theater. It's a two-part question. What do you find most rewarding and most challenging in creating a character via voice acting or in-person? The whole body being able to the audience being able to see your whole facial expressions, your arms, your movements, versus creating that through a voice character. And you've done many Blizzard and obviously many TV shows and cartoons and whatnot.
Oh, you know, it all goes back to the material. If the material is good, you find every bit of material has a vibration and its own vibration, its own essence. And you have to find it. And then you have to meld it with who you are. In other words, it's not acceptable that it's just the material that lives. It has to live through you, so it goes through you as a filter. The better the material is, the more you can give of yourself to it, and so it's all about the material. Listen, you've heard this from others, I'm sure. you know, doing a voiceover, you don't have to get dressed. You don't have to comb your hair. Not that I ever comb my hair, but you know, you do your homework, you get everything ready, and what have you. For film or play, it's much more involved, and there's much more that is involved. So, in terms of range of difficulty, the other issue is that I'm as I said in the beginning, I'm dyslexic, so learning lines is such a pain in the ass, and so you know, there's all of that stuff that goes on. But again, it's all about the material.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah. Next.
Good morning. So my question is after playing so many different series of Star Trek and whatnot, was there ever another character that you wish you could have like dabbled with, or were you so in love with Q and felt so like part of him that you were totally fine playing Q and were never interested in maybe being in engineering or in another spot?
Were there other characters on Star Trek?
No. Were you ever interested when... No, my question...
I wasn't aware of any.
Oh, okay. Well, that sounds...
Whenever I looked out there, nobody was there. I just saw images of myself everywhere I went.
That does sound very much like something Q would say.
There we go.
That's a perfect answer.
All right.
Thank you.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Big fan of yours as both Q and Discord. My question is a two-parter. I don't know if you're up for that, but it's a short one. How did you get your start? That was my first part.
In Star Trek?
No, like in acting in general.
Oh. I had flunked out of 2 schools.
Okay.
They didn't know that it was because I was dyslexic. It was pre-dyslexia. So instead of saying that you were dyslexic, what they would say is that you're stupid, or that you are mildly retarded, or you know, or whatever. So I ended up at a little school, a little private school in Philadelphia, where the next step was military school. And it was all a school kind of for wayward kids. And we had wayward teachers. And you know, our football team had 12 people on it. So, you know, it was a little country day school. But we had I had a wonderful teacher there. His name is Mr. Biddle. And he was very ambitious. And my graduating class from the school was 19 kids. And he would come in and he would say, we are going to do, let's say it's at Christmas time, we're going to do Handel's Messiah. Like, great. You know, we're going to do Mozart's The Marriage of Figaro. So, you know, we'd all have to play these parts and sing these. And he came in when I was 14, came in, and it was in springtime, and he said, we're going to do Henry V. And I was at the back of the room, and I didn't even actually hear the first part of the thing because I was carrying on in the back. But I got hit with a book right in the chest that he threw at me. And that caught my attention, and he said, and you, De Lancie, are going to play Hal, Prince Hal. And so I had 2 months, and I learned it, and which was really difficult because I had a very difficult time reading it, much less learning it. And I finished, and it was done outside under the trees, and the parents had come and what have you. And there was a man who came to see his granddaughter, who was also in my class, and he was the editor of the Pelican Shakespeares. And he took my father aside and he said, if your son has an interest, you should encourage him because he has a flair for this. And that's how I got started.
Cool. My other question was, in the future I may want to pursue acting. Do you have any advice?
How old are you?
I'm going to be 20 in December.
You're going to be what?
20.
Well, and have you been in anything yet?
Well, I used to be in, like, plays and stuff when I was younger, and I have a YouTube channel of karaoke videos, but other than that, not a lot of acting experience.
Yeah,
Wasn't
well, way too general. Your interest is way too general. I might pursue acting. You know, do you have any advice? My advice is that you need to really get very specific here.
Okay.
Because you are entering a business that doesn't need you, want you, care about you. You might not even get spit out because you won't maybe even get into the mouth to be able to get spit out. So you just need to be much more focused about it.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
With Discord more. Oh, okay. More with Discord and his relationship with Fluttershy and Twilight. How... No, not like that. On how Fluttershy just completely trusts him no matter how much wrong he does. Is there really anything that Discord could do that could just make Fluttershy go, oh no, sorry, you're not worth it anymore? Or is there anything that Discord would do?
I could become a Republican. I don't know. You know what? You are asking probably. I don't know the show anywhere near as well as you do. Anywhere near as well as you do. You are the best. What would you say that I could do that would finally turn off Fluttershy?
Probably if you did something to if you hurt one of her friends or something.
Exactly. I was going to say that.
Thanks, that was a very helpful answer.
There we go. All right.
Thank you.
All right, once again, let's give it up to our panelists, John De Lancie,